Windows users around the world hit the shutdown button every single day. It's the most basic function of an operating system. You're done working, you close your laptop, you click shutdown, and your computer powers off. Except when it doesn't. And when that most fundamental action breaks, it's not just annoying, it's a sign that something has gone seriously wrong with how Microsoft develops and tests its updates. What started as a Windows 11 shutdown bug has now spread to Windows 10 PCs, affecting machines across both operating systems in ways Microsoft never warned users about. On January 13, 2026, Microsoft released its monthly security update for Windows. Within hours, users started reporting a bizarre problem. Their computers refused to shut down. You click shutdown, the screen goes dark, and then your machine springs back to life. You try hibernation, same thing. The computer just restarts instead. This wasn't affecting a handful of unlucky users with weird configurations. This was hitting enterprise systems, government devices, and critical infrastructure machines, running Microsoft's own security features. And it gets worse. What Microsoft initially described as a Windows 11 problem has now spread to Windows 10. Yes, the operating system that officially ended support last October is still getting broken by Microsoft's updates, and some of those affected users are actually paying for the privilege through extended security updates. This is the story of how a single security patch broke one of computing's most basic functions, how Microsoft's emergency fixes didn't actually fix the problem, and why machines with the most advanced security features turned out to be the most vulnerable. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly which systems are at risk, why this happened, and what you can do if your own computer has been caught in this mess. Microsoft's narrative around this bug has been carefully managed. On January 15th, 2 days after the problematic update rolled out, the company acknowledged the issue in its Windows Release Health dashboard. They described it as affecting Windows 11 version 23H2, specifically Enterprise and IoT editions, with a feature called System Guard Secure Launch enabled. The language was technical and precise, designed to make this sound like a narrow edge case affecting only specialized business machines. System Guard Secure Launch is one of Microsoft's premium security features, introduced as part of their push for what they call secured core PCs. The official marketing pitch sounds impressive. Secure Launch uses hardware-based virtualization to protect the boot process from firmware-level attacks. It creates a measured, trusted boot path that makes it much harder for sophisticated malware to compromise your system during startup. It's the kind of feature you'd expect to find on government laptops, healthcare systems handling sensitive patient data, and corporate machines managing confidential business information. The January update, labeled KB5073455, was supposed to deliver over 100 security fixes. Microsoft's Security Response Center had flagged multiple vulnerabilities being actively exploited in the wild, so organizations couldn't just skip this patch. They had to install it. And when they did, the shutdown function simply stopped working. According to Microsoft's initial documentation, the problem occurred when Secure Launch misinterpreted shutdown signals as potential unauthorized changes to the boot process. The security feature, designed to protect against attacks, was essentially treating a normal shutdown command as a threat. Microsoft's response was swift. On January 17th, just 4 days after the broken update went live, they released an emergency out-of-band update, KB5077797, for Windows 11. Out-of-band updates are unusual. They bypass the normal monthly Patch Tuesday cycle and signal that Microsoft considers something serious enough to warrant immediate action. The company advised affected users to install this emergency fix. For those who couldn't immediately deploy it, Microsoft provided a workaround. Open command prompt and type shutdown/s/T0 to force a proper shutdown, bypassing the broken automation. But here's what the initial acknowledgement didn't tell you. This wasn't just a Windows 11 problem, and the emergency patches didn't actually solve it for everyone. What security researchers and system administrators discovered goes far beyond Microsoft's careful initial framing. The problem wasn't limited to Secure Launch. It also affected systems running another virtualization-based security feature called Virtual Secure Mode, or VSM, and it wasn't limited to Windows 11. Multiple versions of Windows 10 were also broken by the same update. Virtual Secure Mode is even more deeply embedded in enterprise security architecture than Secure Launch. VSM creates an isolated, protected memory region separate from the normal operating system, using hardware virtualization to establish what Microsoft calls a secure kernel. This isolated environment is extremely difficult for malware to access, even after a complete system compromise. It protects credentials, encryption keys, and security tokens from kernel-level attacks. Features like Credential Guard and Device Guard depend on VSM to function. When you enable these protections, you're essentially running a hypervisor on your machine that isolates your most sensitive data in a virtual trust level that sits above the normal operating system. The January update broke Shutdown and hibernation for systems with VSM enabled, just as it did for secure launch systems. And Microsoft didn't acknowledge this expanded scope until January 30th, more than 2 weeks after the initial bug report. By that point, the emergency patches that were supposed to fix secure launch systems had already been deployed, and administrators were discovering that machines with VSM still couldn't shut down properly. Independent testing by Windows Forum contributors revealed the technical details Microsoft wasn't advertising. The bug occurs during the multi-phase update process that Windows uses. When you install a major update, Windows downloads files while the system is running, then performs offline commits during shutdown or restart to replace components that can't be updated while active. The servicing stack is supposed to preserve your final power intent, whether you chose shutdown, restart, or hibernation, across those offline boundaries, and complete that action after the update finishes. When Secure Launch or VSM are active, they introduce additional virtualization boundaries and timing differences in the boot and shutdown sequences. The January update changed something in how these sequences are orchestrated. It altered the timing or state transitions in a way that caused the system to misinterpret or fail to preserve your shutdown intent. Instead of powering off or entering hibernation after the offline update phase, and the system defaulted to restarting every single time. You probably think this is the kind of bug that only affects a tiny number of specialized systems, so it's not your problem. But here's why that assumption is wrong. The affected configurations aren't rare experimental setups. They're Microsoft's recommended security baseline for enterprise deployments. Secured core PCs, which ship with Secure Launch enabled by default, are sold by major manufacturers including Dell, HP, Lenovo, and Surface. Organizations following Microsoft's own security guidance enable VSM and Credential Guard as standard practice. These aren't fringe configurations. They're what you're supposed to be running if you take security seriously. And there's another layer to this that makes it worse. Windows 10 officially reached the end of support on October 14, 2025. Microsoft spent years pushing users to upgrade to Windows 11, warning that Windows 10 would no longer receive security updates after that date. But they also introduced an extended security updates program, allowing organizations and individuals to pay for continued security patches. For businesses, that's $61 per device for the first year of ESU, with the price doubling each subsequent year. Those Windows 10 ESU customers are paying for security, and what they got in January 2026 was an update that broke their ability to shut down their computers. And the bug affects Windows 10 version 22H2, Windows 10 Enterprise LTSC 2021, and Windows 10 Enterprise LTSC 2019, all versions still receiving paid security updates. You're paying Microsoft to keep your old operating system secure, and Microsoft is delivering updates that prevent basic system functions from working. When news of this bug first broke, there was no immediate regulatory response. This wasn't a data breach or privacy violation that would trigger GDPR investigations or FTC inquiries. But what's notable is the silence from the organizations that depend on these systems. Government agencies, healthcare providers, and financial institutions are required to maintain fully patched systems for compliance purposes. They can't defer security updates indefinitely just because Microsoft broke something. When the January patch cycle arrived with over 100 fixes, including 3 zero-day vulnerabilities being actively exploited, these organizations had to deploy the updates. They had no choice, and then they discovered their machines wouldn't shut down. The UK's National Cybersecurity Centre, which provides guidance to government departments and critical infrastructure operators, has standing recommendations to enable virtualization-based security features like VSM and Secure Launch. Their security baseline configurations specifically call for these protections on high-value systems. Those are exactly the systems that the January update broke. The Information Commissioner's Office in the UK, which enforces data protection regulations, requires organizations to maintain appropriate technical measures to protect personal data. Part of that requirement is keeping systems updated against known vulnerabilities. But when updates themselves break critical functionality, organizations face an impossible choice: run vulnerable systems with known security flaws, or install the patches and lose the ability to properly shut down machines. Under GDPR's principles of data minimization and security, organizations processing sensitive information are expected to implement state-of-the-art technical protections. VSM and Secure Launch are explicitly marketed by Microsoft as meeting that standard. When those exact protections cause system instability, it undermines the entire security posture these regulations are designed to ensure. The bug doesn't expose data directly, but it compromises operational security in ways that compliance frameworks aren't designed to handle. Privacy advocates haven't issued formal statements on this specific bug, but the pattern it represents is clear. Microsoft is pushing users toward increasingly complex security features, while simultaneously demonstrating that they can't reliably test updates against those same features before releasing them to production systems. On January 17th, Microsoft released an emergency update, KB5077797, specifically targeting the secure launch issue on Windows 11, version 23H2. Another emergency update, KB5077744, addressed Windows 11 versions 24H2 and 25H2. On January 24th, a third emergency update, KB5078132, was released. Microsoft's messaging suggested the problem was solved, but it wasn't. On January 30th, Microsoft quietly updated the Windows Release Health Dashboard to acknowledge that systems with Virtual Secure Mode enabled were still affected. The emergency patches had fixed the secure launch issue for some configurations, but they left VSM-enabled systems broken. Microsoft's official statement was brief. After installing Windows updates released on or after January 13, 2026, some secure launch-capable PCS with Virtual Secure Mode enabled are unable to shut down or enter hibernation. Instead, the device restarts. We plan to release a solution in a future Windows update. No timeline, no estimated fix date, just a promise that a solution would arrive eventually. For the organizations running these systems, that's unacceptable. They can't simply wait indefinitely for Microsoft to figure out how to undo the damage their own update caused. Independent testing by Windows Forum technical contributors revealed that even with all 3 emergency patches installed, the underlying problem persists for certain configurations. The bug is configuration dependent. It emerges specifically where advanced virtualization-based security features intersect with the update servicing pipeline and the platform's power. State orchestration. That combination created conditions for the operating system to misapply shutdown intent, producing a restart instead of a power-off or hibernation state. If your system is affected by this bug, consider taking these practical steps. Identify whether your system is actually affected. Open the Start menu and type System Information, then press Enter. When the System Information window opens, scroll down in the System Summary section. Look for entries labeled Virtualization, Base Security, and System Guard Secure Launch. If these show as running or enabled, your system has the configurations that can trigger this bug. To check your installed updates, open Settings, navigate to Update and Security, then select Windows Update and click View Update History. Look for KB5073455, KB5073724, KB5077797, KB5077744, or KB5078132. If any of these are installed and you have VSM or Secure Launch enabled, you're in the affected population. The most reliable temporary workaround is to force shutdown using the command line. Open the Start menu, type CMD, right-click on Command Prompt, and select Run as Administrator. In the command window, type exactly this, shutdown/s/T0 and press Enter. The /S flag specifies shutdown. The /T0 means 0 seconds delay. Your computer should shut down immediately without restarting. If you need to hibernate instead of shutting down, use this command, shutdown/H. That forces hibernation mode. For systems where you need to do this repeatedly, you can create a desktop shortcut. Right-click on your desktop, select New, then Shortcut. In the Location field, type shutdown/S/T0, click Next, name it something like Force Shutdown, and click Finish. Now you have a desktop icon that will shut down your machine properly with a single double click. Microsoft has not yet provided a timeline for when the permanent fix will arrive. Until then, anyone running Windows with these security features enabled will need to use these workarounds. Your computer should do what you tell it to do. When it doesn't, you deserve to know why.